Imagine waking up one day and realizing you're the last member of your kind. No family, no friends, no future generations, just silence. Now imagine that somewhere beyond the mountains, another species is spreading across the world. A species that looks a lot like you, thinks like you, hunts like you, but isn't you. This isn't science fiction. This may have happened around 40,000 years ago. And the victim wasn't a dinosaur. It wasn't a mammoth. It was another human species, the Neanderthals. And this is the story of the last one alive. Long before cities, kingdoms, and smartphones, Earth belonged to many different human species. Humanity wasn't a single branch. It was an entire family tree. Some were tall, some were small. Some lived on isolated islands. Others survived in freezing ice age landscapes. Among them were the Neanderthals. They first appeared around 400,000 years ago. They evolved across Europe and parts of Western Asia. Life was harsh and unforgiving. Massive ice sheets covered much of the land. Winters were long, cold, and deadly. Food was never guaranteed. Yet somehow, the Neanderthals adapted and survived. Their bodies became shorter, stronger, and more muscular. Every feature helped them survive the freezing climate. They hunted enormous ice age animals. Woolly mammoths roamed the frozen plains. Reindeer migrated across endless tundras. Wild horses galloped through open valleys. Even woolly rhinoceroses were part of their dangerous world. Every hunt was a fight between life and death. But Neanderthals were far from primitive. They crafted sharp stone tools with remarkable skill. They mastered fire and used it to stay warm and cook food. They built simple shelters to survive harsh winters. They cared for injured members of their families. They buried their dead, suggesting they understood loss and remembrance. For hundreds of thousands of years, they thrived in a world few could survive. Then, everything began to change. Far to the south, a new kind of human was on the move. They were called Homo sapiens. Unlike Neanderthals, they first evolved in Africa. Over thousands of years, they spread into new lands. They crossed deserts that seemed impossible to survive. They climbed mountains and crossed vast rivers. Nothing stopped their journey. Eventually, they entered lands that Neanderthals had called home for thousands of generations. For the first time in history, two human species shared the same world. Imagine that extraordinary moment. Two groups standing face to face, both carrying stone tools, both staring at another version of humanity, neither knowing how history would remember them. Nobody knows exactly what happened during that first meeting. Perhaps they watched each other from a distance. Perhaps they traded food or tools. Or perhaps they fought over hunting grounds. The truth has been lost to time. For thousands of years, both species lived side by side. But the world itself was changing. The climate became colder and less predictable. Forests disappeared as open grasslands expanded. Many of the animals they hunted began to vanish. Food became harder to find with every passing generation. Competition for survival grew more intense. Homo sapiens often lived in larger and better connected groups. Ideas spread quickly from one community to another. New hunting techniques reached distant tribes in a matter of generations. Better tools gave them a slight advantage. Better communication made cooperation easier. Even the smallest advantage could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Meanwhile, Neanderthal populations slowly began to decline. Their territories grew smaller year after year. Entire clans disappeared without leaving a trace. The remaining groups became isolated from one another. Finding new mates became increasingly difficult. Some Neanderthals joined Homo sapiens and had children together. Others simply vanished into history. By around 40,000 years ago, only a handful of Neanderthal communities remained. Their once vast world had become frighteningly small. Without realizing it, they were witnessing the final chapter of their species. Somewhere, one last tribe continued to fight for another day. That final tribe may have lived in a remote cave hidden among rugged mountains, far from the growing populations of Homo sapiens. Each morning began with the same struggle to survive. The hunters searched for tracks in the snow. The gatherers looked for whatever nature could still provide. Every meal was uncertain. Every winter claimed more lives. The elders remembered a different world, a world filled with larger tribes and familiar faces. They spoke of places where Neanderthals once gathered in great numbers, places that now stood empty and silent. The children had never seen that world. To them, loneliness was normal. Year after year, the tribe became smaller. One illness took a family member. One failed hunt claimed another. One freezing winter claimed even more. The fire that once surrounded many voices now warmed only a few. Then, one day, only a single Neanderthal remained. The last representative of a species that had survived for nearly 400,000 years. He didn't know he was the last. There was no warning, no sign from nature, no final goodbye. He simply woke up and continued searching for food, unaware that an entire branch of humanity was about to disappear forever. The world moved on, but his story was almost over. He followed the same rivers his ancestors had walked for thousands of generations. He climbed the same cliffs they once called home. He lit the same kind of fire that had kept his people alive through countless winters. But something felt different. The forests were quieter than before. The familiar voices were gone. The laughter around the campfire had faded into memory. He searched for others, but found only empty caves. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens continued to spread across the continent. New camps appeared where Neanderthals once lived. Small villages slowly replaced ancient hunting grounds. The future now belonged to a different kind of human. Eventually, the last Neanderthal's journey came to an end. Perhaps it was illness. Perhaps it was an injury from a hunt. Or perhaps old age finally caught up with him. No one knows the exact place where he took his final breath. No one recorded his last day. No monument marked the end of his species. Yet with his passing, one entire branch of humanity disappeared from the earth. Or so it seemed, because the Neanderthals left behind something far more powerful than bones. They left a part of themselves inside us. When Homo sapiens and Neanderthals met, they didn't just compete. They also formed families. Their children carried the DNA of both worlds. And that ancient legacy still lives on today. Millions of people alive, right now, carry Neanderthal DNA in their bodies. So perhaps the last Neanderthal never truly disappeared after all.